implementation and taking the outcome of the AI models, putting them into production becomes a very big thing, right? It's one thing to go build out an AI model, but it's another thing to go deploy that into your systems, right? So that's another very important aspect of it, right? And after you have deployed, can you have a continuous monitoring of that, right? So that these are all, I've touched only few of the aspects, right? But I must emphasize, data management is a very important part of, a successful implementation of AI solutions, right?
Hello and welcome to the Maitsys podcast, where we delve into the world of technology, business, and innovation. I'm your host, Inesh Pandi. Today we have a distinguished guest who brings a wealth of experience in the field of analytics, data science, and machine learning. Joining us is Pramod Singh, Dr. Pramod Singh, actually, I apologize, with a proven track record of success as the Chief Analytical Officer and Vice President of Data Sciences and Analytics at Yodlee, one of the leading global fintech companies. As a results-oriented leader with 25 years of experience, Pramod has successfully leveraged big data and analytics to drive top-line and bottom-line growth for organizations across multiple industries and geographies. He's been at the forefront of analytical innovation, leading the Analytics Center of Excellence at Envestnet and Yodlee, and previously contributing significantly during his 15-year tenure at HP. Now, before we delve into the world of analytics and the future of AI with Pramod, let me take a moment to introduce myself. Once again, I'm Inesh Pandi, Business Development Manager at Maitsys IT Consulting. If you guys don't know already, we're a global IT consulting firm specialized in SAP, cloud migration, and IT infrastructure. At Maitsys, we're passionate about helping businesses navigate their ever-evolving IT landscape, ensuring seamless transitions to cutting-edge technology. Today's conversation promises to be insightful as we explore the evolution of analytics, the challenges in implementing big data solutions, and the exciting applications of machine learning within fintech. But first, let's extend a warm welcome to our guest, Pramod Singh. Pramod, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to the conversation in an area I'm really passionate about.
Awesome. So yeah, just to kind of delve into things, you want to talk about how we first met, kind of thing?
Yes, I think very interesting. Over the last year and a half, I have been trying to go work on my fitness, and I go to a fitness center here in Raleigh area, and I met Inesh. It's typically very interesting, in a sauna, and why I think it's interesting is also a bit data driven. So the typical time a person spends in a sauna is 15 minutes, and people come and go. So the overlap between two individuals maybe is 7-8 minutes. But over the years, there have been so many fascinating conversations. I've met so many interesting people there. And in one of them, I think I met Inesh, who was actually visiting. He doesn't even live here in this area, right? It was a quick 5-minute conversation, but then he has kept in touch. There was an opportunity for me to go present in Boston, and we were connected. I ended up giving that presentation remote, right? But Inesh, you kept in touch with me, so I really appreciate that.
Thank you. And thank you again for coming on the podcast. I'm really excited to be down here in Raleigh, North Carolina. You got a beautiful house, so thank you once again. So yeah, just to dive right into it, just for the viewers at home, I kind of want you to define what AI, machine learning, and large language modules are, and what the differences between the three are.
Very, very good question, a basic question, right? And I think there are millions of definitions that you will see, right?
Right.
What I would say at a very basic level, the way I think I sort of relate to that, if you look at artificial intelligence, is something that a machine can do. And if a human would have done that, we would have called that human intelligent, right? So that's the way I think I try to go articulate artificial intelligence, right? At the same time, I think now I personally look at machine learning as a subset of artificial intelligence, right? The part of machine learning which is not in artificial intelligence is something what I call knowledge representation, right? And that is where I think the humans can come in and put something that you don't have to learn, right? Or you think you have enough data for that, right? For example, the fact that the sun rises in east would be a definition of a knowledge representation, right? And large language models are again a subset of artificial intelligence where we are looking to learn from the languages, right? The human brain is trained to go learn from languages. So is machine, right? Machine is looking at different languages to go do that, and a study of that is what we call large language models.
Awesome, thank you very much. And I think there's a lot of misunderstandings of what those things are and misuses of the term. So I'm glad you defined those before we delve into this conversation today. First and foremost, this is something very new. I heard you started the TAL, so congratulations on the launch of the Triangle Analytics Leader Forum. Could you share the vision behind this initiative and how you envision it contributing to the AI and analytics community, and kind of just touch on that for
Oh, very good, yeah. Yeah, so this is a very recent initiative that we have done, and especially staying in this Raleigh area, which is a very vibrant community of 3 top universities in the country within about 30 miles radius, a lot of professionals in the analytics field, right? And I felt there was a need to sort of bring the academia and the industry professionals together, right? So it's an initiative in the early stages of bringing the leaders, who are the leaders in the AI and analytics space, along with the researchers, on the academia side, putting them on the same platform, bringing peer-to-peer learning, making sure that that we learn from each other, the peers in the industry can learn from each other, the academics can learn from each other, and bring the next level of innovation coming forward. I mean, this is something I had done in the previous stint, and I was in Bay Area and as well as in Bangalore, and I'm looking forward to this becoming a thriving community here.
Yeah, it makes sense, and I think something that's often gets overlooked, especially because we're on the computers and using social media a lot, is that one-to-one communication of getting those ideas together, and that's where all these great ideas spawn and form. So I'm really glad that you're doing that. You recently shared an executive order from President Biden regarding the development and management of artificial intelligence. What key aspects of this order do you find most significant for the future of AI, and how might it influence the AI landscape and the government in general?
I remember sharing that executive order from President Biden, right? And it's a very comprehensive, well written, right? But if I sort of boil it down to, as you said, the main takeaways, right? One is the emphasis on the development of what we call responsible AI, right? So I think there's a lot of emphasis put there that that includes the fairness, the equity, and the responsible AI aspect of it, right? So I believe as we started to get into that, you will start to get into the models, getting developed, which can be audited. They are much more fair. I think a lot of black boxes thing. It will, in fact, I believe, evolve a cottage industry of, around responsible AI, model audits, and things like that, right? So that, I think, is a very good step that has been done in terms of the responsible AI aspect of it, right? Impact of that on the landscape could be tremendous. As I said, you'll probably see, lot more solutions coming out, which are much more auditable in nature. It will have increased focus on the security. These are the guidelines laid out. They'll be as good as the implementation that can happen, right? The second aspect, which I thought was very important, was trying to have US lead this development of AI right now. Mm-hmm. The way things are moving right now, a lot of countries across the world, are putting a lot of emphasis into that. The emphasis on bringing in the research, having the top research, by US researchers, the lot of academia and the industry collaboration happening, right? So there are a lot of guidelines there where I think the sort of a quote unquote AI leadership, I think, bringing to the US, and there's a lot of aspects of those that have been talked about, in this executive order. I believe this will evolve the next level of research, in the country. I do believe that you will start to see a lot of collaborations across the industry segments and with the academia. Definitely a step in the right direction, but I must say, right, these are guidelines. The real impact would be only when these are really implemented, right? And that has to be seen, right? How do we, as professional, as a society, actually go implement those guidelines?
That's awesome. Recently, you gave a talk on data management in the AI world to graduate students at NC State. What are some key considerations for effective data management in the context of AI, and how can organizations navigate the complexities of handling large volumes of data?
Data management is a key to a success of a good AI program, right? And if you look at the overall data management aspect, right? If you can look through the life cycle of that, right? That involves multiple things, right? It will involve sourcing your data, right? Are you sourcing the right data? Are you sourcing the data which is ethical, right? Is it coming from the reliable reliable data sources, right? Are you using the right technologies, right? To go do that, right? So that's one aspect of data management. The second aspect of data management is around data manipulation, right? As we bring in the raw data coming in, right? Can we are we making sure that we are doing the right calculation of the attributions, right? Are those data? I mean, the data manipulation part becomes very, very important, right? That especially in the field of AI, because you're generating a lot of new attributes, right? So making sure those aspects are coming in, right? Security becomes a very big thing for AI, right? You may be in an enterprise where there is a lot of data, which is what we call PII, personally identifiable data. Making sure that you have your security frameworks around it, making sure people are not looking at PII to go do that. So basically making sure there are algorithms or processes done to mask that class of data, right? Implementation and taking the outcome of the AI models, putting them into production becomes a very big thing, right? It's one thing to go build out an AI model, but it's another thing to go deploy that into your systems, right? So that's another very important aspect of it, right? And after you have deployed, can you have a continuous monitoring of that, right? So that these are all, I mean, I've touched only few of the aspects, right? But I must emphasize, data management is a very important part of, a successful implementation of AI solutions, right?
Yeah, it makes sense. And to kind of piggyback off of that answer you just gave, you've got a PhD and a master's in mathematics and an MBA in marketing. How do you combine your expertise in mathematics with marketing strategies, especially in the context of analytics and decision science technologies?
Oh, very good question. I think you reminded me about that. I've almost forgotten about that. Yes, but I think the way I look at it, and as my career evolved, right, and I must say a lot of in the beginning, now things have dramatically changed, but if you look at the last 10, 15 years, a lot of the first applications of analytics and AI came in the marketing domain, right? I mean, things around, return on marketing investment, right? Something called ROMI models, right? Which are very mathematical in nature that, a big company like Hewlett Packard may spend billions of dollars on their marketing, right? Figuring out which campaigns are successful, which medias are successful, requires a lot of deep maths behind it, right? Doing customer segmentation is another use case in marketing where you do a lot of deeper mathematics to go work throughout. There are customer attrition and retention models that are built, right? So definitely, I think in some sense, having a background in the mathematics has really helped me kind of evolve the art of possible in the solutions part of it. And I'm a big proponent of making sure that you understand the domain and you understand the science behind it. And when I look at my career, although maybe I'm not using several aspects of pure mathematics, into solving some of these problems, but the way we think, the way we solve problems are very, very relevant in that space.
You touched on your time at HP. I just want to get more insight onto that. In your time at HP, you were responsible for the architecture and implementation of a $600 million proprietary analytics solution. How did you go about architecting a seamlessly integrated advanced analytics ecosystem, and what lessons did you learn from this experience?
So I must say, in terms of architecting analytics solutions, I mean, this is a process that you go through that, right? But it's very important that you are very clearly defined your goals and objectives, right? Unlike a classical development of a software, right, which is somewhat of a linear process, the analytics development cycle can be iterative in nature, right? And I give a lot of talks around it. I mean, one of the things to keep in mind is that it involves what I personally like a lot around, a phase before the development cycle, right? That's where you are actually evaluating your solution framework, right? I call it discovery, for example, right? So, I mean, after the requirements, you do a discovery, and at the end of the discovery, you decide, what the phase would be, right? So clearly knowing your goals and objectives, clearly knowing what the success criteria would be, because these solutions are almost always probabilistic in nature as compared to be deterministic in nature, right? So important to define the rules of the games before the game start. Assessing your data landscape. Very important when you're defining these solutions, especially on a big company, you have data coming from several different areas, right? I mean, it could be from manufacturing, it could be from sales and marketing, it could be from finance, right? Making sure you have clearly defined, what your data sources are and you understand the data, their lineage, the latency and everything around that, right? Another important consideration is knowing your data infrastructure, right? The technology that you use, and obviously we have evolved a lot in the last 10 years, right? But picking the right infrastructure is important, right? Data governance is important, right? Even though you may have a lot of data, but are you correctly governing your data very, very well, right? Selecting analytics tools, important. At that point of time, we had decided to sort of create a centralized environment for analysts across the world to come do that. Things have evolved from that. A lot of open source has come in now. That and it has changed the landscape. But having a strategy around the tools becomes very, very important, right? And finally, I think making sure that you're fostering collaboration across the teams, right? And that collaboration has to be between the data scientists and the engineers, your marketing folks, your business folks, and it's very important that across the teams the collaboration is there. And last but not the least is making sure there's a continuous improvement. It's not a one-shot thing. You can implement a solution. A lot of these models, as the data changes, may have different outcome, right? So continuously having a dipstick and looking for the continuous improvement is very, very important.
That's awesome. So to kind of expand on the future of AI collaboration, as you just mentioned, how do you foresee the collaboration between AI and analytics professionals evolving in the workplace, both within organizations and across different industries, to address the increasingly complex challenges and opportunities presented by AI and machine learning?
Sometimes it becomes a terminology kind of a thing, right? But in some sense, what I do believe, right, if we look at AI analytics as two different terms, and if we look at analytics primarily in the context of business analytics, business analysis, and AI more on the science side of it, what I strongly personally believe and what I've seen that in my last roles is that you will start to see a lot of these roles coming together, right? So I'm a big proponent of saying that that a strong analytics or AI organization. I talk about this, what we call the three-legged stools, right? Knowing your science very well, your math very well, knowing the big data engineering very well, as well as the third angle is what I call the business analytics, right? And what I believe is, if you look at a professional as yourself, it's very important that you have a depth in at least one of these three, but you should be very familiar with the other two, right? That's the world we have evolved into. So I do believe that a lot of collaboration across the streams is happening. Mm-hmm. AI is actually helping a lot of things around, how do you make your analytics much better, right? So in terms of, getting your data, in terms of, doing things around data quality, in terms of doing things around data governance, a lot of innovation is happening in that space, right?
Mm-hmm.
So putting these two things together, I think we're definitely going to evolve into a lot of newer solutions, across the board.
That makes sense. You had another interactive session with the Duke AI's master's students. You discussed lessons learned in the analytics career and advances in AI. I know there's a lot of younger professionals listening. Could you share a key lesson or insight that you believe is crucial for aspiring professionals in the AI and analytics field? I know I have a friend back home. He was excited that I'm talking to you today, so he asked me a couple of questions too. So this is great.
Very good question. I get asked this question a lot, and I will probably repeat a few things I had just said. Right?
Yeah, please.
If you are aspiring to have a career in this field, right? Again, may sound a little old school, but I would very strongly recommend that making sure that you have some strength in all three areas, right? That if what has happened over the last several years, a lot of career paths have evolved. When I look at my journey across these multiple companies, we have created career paths around analytical engineering, the big data part of it, the data sciences part of it, as well as on the business analytics part of it. But it's very important that that you are well grounded in all three of those, right? That's one thing that I will strongly recommend, right? That even though you may be coming from a pure computer science background, making sure that you understand the business problem very well, and be able to go connect to that, right? Always learn, right? The learning never stops, right? Even at my stage, I've been in the industry for more than 2 decades, right? Every day I'm learning something new, right? So have that desire to go learn, right? Like one of my mentors early in my career said, be like a sponge, right?
Right.
So digest everything that you have, understand it, try to go articulate. Be curious, very important, right? Ask questions, right? If you are working on something, you've been given to do some work, and you do not understand the impact of your work on the organization, feel free to go ask your manager, ask your mentor. If he cannot answer or she cannot answer, go to the next level, right? It's very important to kind of understand what you're doing and how is that impacting the organizational goals, right? But that will go a long way, right? Be on top of things. The field you are in, literally, what last week was the 1 year anniversary of ChatGPT, right? But
right.
Imagine the amount of innovation that has happened in that 1 year. So we are on a very accelerated path of innovation and development, right? So stay on top of that, right? Be on lookout. Try to go to conferences, go read up things, right? Especially the young professionals. I think what you are getting trained in the campuses now, by the time you get to the workforce, a job may have evolved. Mm-hmm. So be always curious. I can go on and on, but I think if you can pick these 2-3 things, I think that will be very, very helpful.
Awesome. And you spoke a lot about advice to younger versions of yourselves and the audience at home. But to kind of dig a little deeper into your early career, you worked at Walmart's information systems team, contributing to the development of the assortment planning system. Can you share a specific accomplishment or challenge from your time at Walmart that significantly influenced your analytics journey and how you see problems on your day-to-day basis?
And you take me back, a couple of decades
Right.
back. Yeah. But a lot of things which are still fresh in my mind, right?
Uh-huh.
So what we did at a very high level at Walmart was, developed something called their assortment planning system, right? And what that system does is that it decides, how much of an item to put in each store across US for a given category, right? You guys are much younger, right? But in late 90s, almost all Walmarts for a given category will have this very similar assortment, whether the store is in New England or is in Texas or in California, right? And intuitively it didn't look right? So we actually worked and kind of figured out a way of clustering the stores with a similar pattern together and pushing out that assortment to each one of these stores, right? So while doing that, this was early days of doing that, and we had done a lot of, at that time, data sciences using algorithms like clustering and decision trees, right? I remember one incident where I found some clusters which were in different parts of the country and intuitively did not make sense, right? So a lot of the stores were in New England area, but there were few stores in Arizona and Florida, right? And I couldn't mathematically explain why was that happening, right? And then when I went and talked to the business owner of the category, he very quickly said, "Oh, I understand. These are snowbirds who are moving during winter and may carry their buying patterns with these very small stores." So the lesson learned for me and the lesson for the life was that it's very important to know your business, understand your business, right? Just your analytics and data science skills can only take you that far, right?
Right.
And making sure that you are well grounded, into understanding the business, a business problem, right? As well as having the right techniques will take you far, right? So that's something I'll probably repeat over and over again, right? It's like to be a complete professional, making sure that you're covering both sides of it.
Right. And a term you seem to harp on and kind of live by is data-driven success. For the viewers at home, what does this mean, and how can organizations ensure that they're truly leveraging the power of data for success? And what role does analytics play in achieving this?
I can look at it into two different dimensions. Right? I think I posted that at some festival, right? And I can look at it, us as an individual,
yeah,
or we can look at it as an organization, as both, right?
Right.
So that as an individual, if you look at that, and I don't mean us to be like, that you are analyzing every single aspect, right? But as you are kind of, planning yourself, right? By data driven, I think especially a lot of you folks, young folks, who are planning your career, you're looking at your next moves, putting your goals, making sure that the goals are what we call SMART. You probably know what SMART means, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, what is R, I forgot, and T is time bound, right?
Right.
And idea is that that you're looking, you're taking the data and your things, and making decisions, right? Which are more action driven, right? Also, if I fast forward that, right? You're putting your goals around your health, right? And it's important that those health goals are tracked well, right? You're tracking your things. You are looking at your financial goals. You're looking at your career goals, right? So as an individual, I think you can use the data around you to make the right decisions for you, right? Again, does not mean that that you are looking at data all your life. A lot of things are spontaneous in nature, right? But this does give you a direction to go with, right? Now, if I take that concept and go to an organizational view, right? And I've talked a lot about that, right? How organizations can be a lot more data driven, right? Similar concepts apply on that side as well, right? Much more, right? Making sure your marketing decisions are data driven, right? Making sure your forecasts are data driven, right? Your strategy has data implemented into that, right? And all these things I think will eventually make sure that you are a successful organization, right? And you'll achieve your goals.
And to expand a little deeper on that last statement you just made, you've obviously received the highest level leadership and innovation awards, both in marketing and IT. And how do you see the intersection of analytics impacting both marketing strategies and the IT functions within organizations? Just expand a little.
The impact of analytics is now seen in all aspects of running a company, right? In this example, if we are specifically looking at marketing and we are looking at IT part of it, right? Marketing, I think I touched a little bit earlier as well, right?
Right.
That we talked about lots of areas of marketing, everything from demand gen to lead gens, right? Doing customer segmentation,
right.
Where, not only, understanding your customer, making sure are you capturing the right attributes of the customers, right? Are you doing the segmentation on the right attributes, right? Because customer remarketing, right, is a very important focus area, right? Where you're looking at customers, whom do you want to bring back, right? Attrition modeling is another area that we look at it, right?
Yep.
So marketing, I think, right now, especially for the big companies, it has to be absolutely measurable. I think that's one thing I look at it. Mm-hmm. Now, if I look at the IT part of it, and this is very interesting, especially over the last several years, I'm seeing that the IT organizations are getting much smarter, right? Planning your data center strategy, right? Especially when the compute is getting so big, right? How do you do your compute the right way, right? Making sure your data warehousing strategy is correct, right? Making sure that network topology is done right, making sure that the resource allocation is right. So I think you can see analytics being used on one end to go get demand gen, right? On the other hand, to make sure you run the organization a lot more smoothly and save cost on the IT side of it.
Yeah, and I know a lot of data-based conversations occurring right now. We're doing a huge cloud migration for one of our clients, and there's a lot of data-based conversations, and I love listening in. I'm not a data expert, but I love hearing that. It's very huge topic in those conversations. You're recognized as a thought leader and advisory board member. How do you stay at the forefront of industry advancements, and how do you translate that thought leadership into actionable strategies for your teams and organizations? This is something I'm really curious about.
The way I look at it, honestly, the way this field is evolving, the cycles are much smaller, right? What used to be a 10, 12-year cycle is becoming 10 to 12 months kind of a cycle, right? So one of the things I very strongly encourage, right, and I try to do myself also, is have an open mind, keep looking outside, right? You may be doing very well, you may be using the technologies very well. Make sure that you're looking out, in other words, how are your peers doing that in the organization? How are the folks solving similar classes of problems in a different industry segment, right? Well, there's a lot of learning comes from that, right? And a lot of those things you can do by attending conferences, looking at the webinars, looking at the podcast, so that learning part becomes, very important, right? Making sure that your IP is captured and translated into patents, if you are in the space of doing something very novel, but that will keep you on the cutting edge, as well as protect your IP, right? That's another thing that I think very important and very relevant very relevant in that space, right? And it's again the culture of continuous learning, right? That you continuously learn, and I'm a big believer of creating an ecosystem where you are encouraging your employees to learn, right? Learning is not always top down; it can be bottoms up, and the healthy organizations are the one where you're doing it both ways, right? You create in an organization, you give your team 5 to 10% of their time to go think outside the box, look at different things, right? Bring the new ideas in, try to have hackathons in your organization, encourage new ideas, encourage the team to fail fast, and trying different things, right? And this is, as I said, a continuous learning process. This is not an end, right? This is a journey that we are on and continue to get better and better over time.
What challenges do you see in the widespread adoption of AI and ML, generative AI, and what potential benefits could emerge from overcoming these challenges?
Again, very, very, very good question, right? And you are right. I think we have entered an era now where the AI is becoming mainstream, right? And I must say, I think about a couple of years ago, there were multiple studies by McKinsey and companies like that where they talk about, I don't remember the exact number, but something like only 8% of the AI projects actually go to production, right? That is slowly started to go change that, right? As we are becoming more and more mainstream, right? These projects are getting solved, they're moving to production. There are a lot of challenges that I can talk about, right? One, I think we talked about, the classical things around ethics and explainable AI, right? When your model, and especially those are relevant into some of the industry segments which are a lot more regulated, like finance, right? Explainable AI becomes a main thing, and a lot of these models are, not tuned to be explainable in nature, right? So I think some of those challenges are there that we are trying to overcome as professionals. There are a lot of sub-aspects of AI evolving where a lot of research is happening, a lot of companies are trying to go do that, right? But if I look at a more fundamental way of doing it, right, I think solving the analytics problem or an AI problem is one thing. Putting them into production requires a very different mindset, right? And a lot of these bigger, older companies which may have their legacy systems, right? It becomes a friction point, right? Where you're trying to have an AI-driven solution which is probabilistic in nature, and then you're moving that into a legacy system. That's an issue that I see quite a bit, right? Having a trained workforce, which is trained to go look at it, understand the science behind it, is a lot of companies are facing with that challenges, right? Another aspect of that is, as I said, as things are more probabilistic in nature, there is a concept of what we call model drifts, right? If you are working with a lot of dynamic data, the product may start out with something which is workable, right? But over time, the models can drift, right? So making sure that you have tools, processes, and people in place who can continue to work on it and make sure the models are performing as they are, right? As they're supposed to do. So a lot of these things are, I think, some of the aspects of the challenges that we are looking at, right? And once you overcome that, right? Again, I keep repeating, this is a journey, and you have to continue to go work on that, right? But the outcomes are dramatic, right? I have seen that, over and over in my career, right? Once you have a solution, right, around these problems, I think you can see massive increase, on your return on investment, right? We have solved classes of problems, which did not look solvable, with the traditional ways, right? And outcomes are, which are bringing in, massive ROI to the company, right? You are able to go ingest a large volume of data, lot of data which is left in the company. There's something called, hidden in plain sight. Hidden in plain sight, right? Yeah. And a lot of companies are dealing with that. They're sitting on large volume of data, not knowing what to do with that, right?
Yeah.
With the right AI strategy, you can actually monetize your data, right? And there are multiple examples of that. The data which may look like an exhaust data can be taken and monetized, in several ways, right? So it's important, to understand the full life cycle. Just taking data, developing model is part of the answer, but making sure you can implement it and maintain that, and if you can do the whole 9 yards, you will have massive returns.
That's awesome. We've actually received a question from our audience related to some of your recent postings. Would you be open to addressing one from Stephen Leonescu, a student at Virginia Tech and a part-time worker at Walmart?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so.
Hey Pramod, hope you're doing well. This is Stephen Leonescu calling in from Blacksburg, Virginia. Go Hokies, baby. Woo! Also a member of Team Walmart back in the day. Stalker for life, baby. Always and forever. First off, congratulations on being awarded the Walmart's Technology Leadership Award in IT back in the day. What an amazing achievement on your part. My question to you is, how does your time as a data analyst pave the way for people like me who used to be a former shelf stalker? I look forward to hearing your answer, and I'm sure all of Hokie Nation does as well. Thank you so much, and let's go Hokies!
So, Steve, thank you for calling in, and a very good question, right? Takes me back, a couple of decades back, right? But as I said earlier, right, one of the things we did at Walmart was to develop an assortment planning system, right? An idea was that the outcome was that you're trying to put the optimal amount of assortment for a given category, right? So as you as a worker at Walmart, hopefully you are seeing lot less out of stock items, right? So that's one way I think it's helping your life. It's a long time back. I'm sure the solution has evolved. It's getting better and better, right? But if you look back to 2 decades back, I mean, it was a very different ball game at that point of time, right? So I'm definitely a data-driven thing, will help you with that. Now, as a professional, right, as an aspiring data analyst, right, I would say some of my lessons, at that point of time about being curious, having an ability to go ask your questions, to your business stakeholders, especially if you are in a store working. That's the best place to gather real life data, right? Try to understand, how the world's biggest retailer works, right? How does the supply chain work, right? How does the sales process work? How does the checkout process work? How do you manage, manage the inventory part of it? I mean, what's the influence of pricing on the sales of the product, right? So I must say that, take that as an opportunity to go learn more, connect that to what you are doing, at your university. I mean, if you're taking classes into marketing, figure out how that is happening, right? We also live in a multimodal world where, you have physical stores, you have online stores, right? Try to figure out an interplay of, what's happening online versus on the physical store, right? Again, be curious, learn, ask questions, don't be afraid to fail, right? And you will do very well.
And to kind of expand on that, I really like the fact that he kind of used the psychological framework of having seasons of your life. The experience you have at Walmart is great for, like you said, collecting data that you can apply to future aspects of your life. So don't think of that job you have as however much per hour, right? It's that knowledge you attain, and you're getting paid to learn that knowledge and take those data-driven surveys. So use that to your advantage, and I hope the best for you, Steve. Thank you for calling in. That being said, as a leader of the Analytics Center of Excellence at Yodlee, what was a unique challenge and opportunity that arose when managing a large team of data scientists, analytics engineers, and business analysts in the fintech industry? I know there was hundreds that below you, correct?
Yeah, this was a journey that we started from a very small team and grew to a team which was 100+ team, right?
Right.
I think in terms of the classical big challenges that I'll talk about is in the beginning, I think is getting the team with the right skill set. I mean, in our industry, things are the demand supply, I think is now getting much better, right? But if you look at 5 years back, it was not that good, right? And it does involve skills, which are typically beyond, what you will see in a software engineer, right? I would say, that having the right skill sets, building that's a challenge, but you have to overcome that by, making sure that you train your people very well, you make the right hires, right, and then continuously go improve, right? Access to the data is another challenge, right? Especially if you are in a regulated industry, right? That making sure that you have the right protocol on the data, the right security on the data, you're doing the right masking of the data where needed, right? Another one, something that I did not talk about right now, especially when you are implementing solutions using AI, which are probabilistic in nature, right? Defining what the success criteria is becomes very important, right? And making sure that you can define that upfront, and which is not totally deterministic in nature but probabilistic in nature, and put a framework around that is one of the very understated problems in this space, right? And I'm a big proponent of defining the success criteria before you start to play the game, right? So that's another challenge that you go through, that as industries maturing, as stakeholders across businesses are maturing, seeing a lot more of that, things are getting better, right? But that's definitely one of the challenges that I looked at.
That's awesome. And before we wrap up, is there anything you want to touch on, or any things you want to promote that you're recently working on?
Yes, right. First, thank you very much for the opportunity. I really enjoyed the conversation, right? And especially, I think, if I'm looking at a lot of young professionals, I'm repeating a few of the things here again, right? But be curious, right? Take this opportunity. The world you are in, I think you are very lucky that you are starting your careers, and you're working in a space which will dramatically change, right? I had given some talks about 3 years ago, and we talked about artificial general intelligence. I laid out the concept, and I said, oh, this is something that's 20 years out, right? May not be 20 years out, maybe happening very fast, right? So try to go understand what's going on, right? Do not be overwhelmed by what's happening, right? I keep repeating. I get this question asked a lot. Even I was giving a talk at Duke last week. The question gets asked is, oh, what happens to our job? Maybe the AI will do everything, right? I think my point of view is, a human with AI will do much better than a human without an AI or AI by itself, right? I'm still a big proponent of, man-machine congruence. Some classes of jobs that may change, may get eliminated, but a lot more will get created, right? I think my guidance is that, stay on top of that, you understand your business very well. I must say that think of AI still as an enabler to a business problem, right? You still need to have a good sense of what business problems you're solving, and using this as an enabling tool to go help solve, right? And I wish you all the best of luck, and I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you, Inesh.
Thank you very much. Dr. Pramod Singh, follow him on LinkedIn. Keep up to date with his latest updates. Thank you very much for this insight, and take care. Thanks for watching.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Inesh. Thank you.